Hello and welcome to another Supercoach Hub preseason podcast. Today we are going to get into finally got some footy back. We got some trials to go through, and I'm here with Mr. Charity. How you going, Mr. Charity?
I'm doing well. As you can tell, it's singlet season. Footy's back. I'm super pumped to get stuck into this season.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And I've also got Rob here with me. How you going, Rob?
Yeah, all good on my side. Great to have the footy back. And yeah, let's get stuck right into it.
Yeah, good stuff. Before we get too far into it, though, we do have a couple of things coming up before the season gets going, a couple of leagues and a very special partnership. Take us away, Mr. Charity.
This is an exciting one. As you can tell with my name, I'm big on charity work. So we've connected with Lifeline Australia, who's willing to support us through this journey. But what we're doing is we're actually setting up a cash league that people can buy into. To get into that league, split the prize pool money, but then half of that money is going to go directly towards Lifeline Australia, as well as any additional donation that you make upon buying your ticket. But it's a $50 entry. That will be shared in the Discord server. It's in one of our special threads in Season Talk. We've also got one for AFL, but we probably won't touch on that today because we're here for the NRL. But the thing that I'm really excited about with it is the fact that we've got a bunch of prizes like gift cards. We've got a couple of things coming up where we're going to be able to do little giveaways for everyone who's in that league as well. So as much as $50 is a lot of money with the financial pressures right now, there is the chance for a lot of really good return in it. So I'm very excited to be a part of it. And yeah, just can't wait to see how big we can make this and how much of an impact we can make for mental health across Australia. So yeah.
That'll be fantastic. Get involved, everyone. Make sure to join the Supercoach Hub. We'll have the link in the description when we get this up in a video, and you'll be able to probably find it on a lot of our other socials as well. It's being pushed in the last couple of days. I've seen some good response, and yeah, get involved. All right. So now it's finally over. What has it been? 3 months, 4 months? It feels like about 12. But we've finally got footy back. Rob, we started with the Bulldogs and the Storm. First of all, it's trials week 1. There's a lot of reserve grade players going around, but we do have to look for a key few things. What were you looking for going into the Storm Bulldogs match, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, as you said, like week 1 of trials, it's you got to take things with a grain of salt, I guess, but there's a few key takeouts you can take. Obviously the return of Pappy, which is probably the big news of the week, and obviously good to see him back on the paddock, and we'll probably touch on how he went, and because obviously very relevant. But also, there's a few cheapy prospects that we can see. Sam Hughes in the front row. Good to see. You got to get a bit of an idea on how the rotations would work, and obviously what the work rate of these sort of players are. So it's more for myself at the moment. Week 1 is just seeing what their sort of work rate is. Is there any upside in the offload front, anything like that in those particular positions? So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely all about the little things. It's about the eye test more than, he got 43 minutes. Because they've got to try out all of these fringe top 30 players and their flag just to see if there's somebody who's going to get a run this year. So I definitely agree. Sam Hughes was a big watch. Pappenhausen was a big watch. And Mr. Charity, did they deliver?
For me, yeah. It was good to see. I mean, Pappy, the thing that was disappointing was no goal kicking. Hopefully come round 1, we can maybe see him doing that. But I mean, if he is goal kicking, then it just adds more headaches to that fullback spot. So it may be for the best for us super coaches. Sam Hughes was really impressive. All the talk in the preseason about how he's training the house down, and we got word out of Gus Gould that Jacob Preston was training the house down, and we saw the season he had last season, and now to see Samuel Hughes come in and much bigger than I was expecting as well. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. A lot of people are talking about having him as your second front rower and playing him week on, week out. So just goes to show how impressive he was in that first hit out.
Yeah, there was, I think, a big concern a lot of us had was what what the heck are the Bulldogs doing in their forwards? They've recruited all these utilities, all these outside backs, but all of them seem to have put on 5 or 10 kilos, and it's probably not as bad as we thought it was going to be. So I was impressed by Sam Hughes. Somebody who's probably fallen off my short list, though, on the other end of the spectrum is probably Liam Knight. He's just continued some of his errors coming from Souths, and I really don't think he did a lot to push for that spot. So honestly, I see a lot of Max King 2022 season in Sam Hughes, hyped up preseason, maybe starts off the bench and then just works into that role, because I mean he looks to be one of the best options to sit there. Yeah,
I mean, with all of the injuries that have happened to the Bulldogs in the past, and some of the people that are out for them in that front row forward, it wouldn't even surprise me if he jags that front row forward spot in partnership with Max King. And if that happens, I think he's as certain of a lock as we've seen for this season, almost, other than maybe Pappy. But it's just crazy.
It's good. Hey, what did you make of? I guess of the rest of the forwards, Rob? I think. Curran's got a bit of competition breathing down his neck if he doesn't start off too hot. I mean, he's been brought over to be the lock, but I did not expect Jamin Salmon to perform as a lock and tackle pretty well. So, like, you've got Kurt Mann there. Could you potentially see a shake-up a couple of weeks in, do you think, maybe?
Yeah, it might get the Serrato effect, obviously coming from Penrith. They like that link-up play. They've got Isaiah Yeo in there out of Penrith. So I imagine you probably want to instill a similar type of play across the Bulldogs. Jamin Salmon was really good in the link-up. So it wouldn't surprise me if they went down that route. Obviously hopeful that Curran gets the role and gets good minutes. But even if his role's not as locked in or the minutes aren't there, we've got a lot of the mids and the star 2RF that we can lean upon. There's no shortage of options, but it might make the decision a little bit easier and less speculative. But Salmon was really good, and I guess another prospect that emerged as a result was Drew Hutchinson in the CTW as well. He's the dual half CT dub, 350k. Was preferred over Sexton to start the game, and he performed all right from what I saw. Sexton, when he came on, had a good showing. Lifted the team and connected well. So I think there's a lot. I think there are a lot of questions still with the Bulldogs, and I think next week's trial, when have a few more of the expected starters like Kikau and whatnot come in, I think we'll see a lot more from week 2. But I think there's more questions that came out of it more than answers, I feel.
Yeah, it at least told us who's in contention for those few spots. I mean, we've had pretty good ideas as to who's going to be there, but it's confirmed, just narrowed it down a little bit, and that's next week's job to figure out what we're going to figure out. So finishing up on the Melbourne side, I was really happy to see Pappenhausen rip through the line like that to score that try. He still looks quick, which is probably one of my main fears for him after 2 really bad back-to-back injuries, to be honest. So even if he doesn't have goal kicking to begin the season, I still reckon there's a solid chance he picks it up again later on. So maybe he is a lot easier to fade with that early draw and the bye if he's going to not be goal kicking and then pick it up later. But yeah, it all depends. If he kicks in the second trial, it all just gives us headaches again, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need to see Meaney and Paps in the same team. I mean, Meaney's the biggest challenger there. So next week we'll confirm that.
Yep, sounds good. Any other notes on the Dogs and the Storm, or shall I move on to the All-Stars?
I mean, I had a few people that stood out to me. I'm not sure how Supercoach relevant they're going to be for at least this year, but that Eli Clark at center really, really impressed me. I thought he's putting a lot of pressure on Jerry as that next up center, especially with the likes of Connor Tracy and Crichton playing in those center spots. But looking back at the game and what the Supercoach scores were, Jerry scored 62. It was the highest point scoring player of that game. So impressive from both of them. O'Neill was really, really impressive as well. I liked what I saw out of him. And Moran, just every time I watch him play, I'm just impressed by how much ticker he has. It's so good to see. So I think Moran will definitely be putting some pressure on some of those bench players, particularly like Liam Knight. If we see, another error-riddled game out of Liam Knight, I can definitely see Moran jagging that in that 17. So there were some other players that are, maybe worth mentioning, but nothing so much Supercoach relevant. So I think that's it from me.
I mean, probably Supercoach relevant. It's good to see Jack Howarth exists. I imagine he'll find a way into a few people's teams.
It's like a Bigfoot sighting. Does he actually exist? He's just been talked about.
He's
for
not
so
real.
many years.
Jack Howarth can't hurt you.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah.
All right. So then we had the All-Stars game, and we had a couple of players perform pretty well. I don't really think Jesse Arthurs needs to be a fullback. I think he should be a winger. But I mean, overall, some of the Maori forwards were pretty strong, and Xavier Willison getting over for a strong effort and a late try. That was really strong to see. Tarpanay, for how many years in a row has he scored 1 billion points and looked unstoppable in the All-Stars game? How much do you reckon his ownership's going to change, Mr. Charity?
Oh, he's so good. I want him in my team so bad, but I started with him last year at 800k and then just saw him dip all the way down to 600 or 550 at one point, I think it was. So yeah, I don't know if I can start with him again, but geez, he looked good. He's just so dominant. Every time he touched the ball or ran it, I just went, God, he's good. So yeah, no, incredible performance by him. As always, he just seems to go to another level in these games.
Yeah, good stuff. Rob, I suppose we've got to talk about the Hines and Trindle situation because this is our first. We saw them a bit at the back end of the last year, but this is the first time we've seen them this year. How did you find Hines's? How did you rate Hines's ability to score next to Trindle? Do you think Trindle was taking too much work for him, or was it just Hines is Hines and he'll always score points?
I feel like this will be a situation a lot of coaches read too much into it. You got to remember that this is the All-Stars. It's players from all sorts of clubs, and that's not club combinations or anything like that. Not necessarily how they're going to play. Trindle looked really good on the ball. He had a lot of touches, and that the first half, he obviously set up a couple of tries and had a few good touches there. And it had that illusion, I guess, that he was taking a lot of touches away from Hines. So I just try to stand that and say, look, it's not a Sharks setup. That's not necessarily how they're going to run the ball. I imagine Hines is going to, dominate, have his hands on the ball as much as he had in the past few years. And, when he has the ball in his hands, he's going to rack up points. I think the biggest thing is whether you compare them up in your team. Obviously, you got Trindle that can be put in the 5'8" position, which is a bit problematic for a lot of coaches at the moment. I think he'll suck a few people in based on that performance. So I guess, I don't want to read too much into what I saw. Just obviously see what happens in the next trial and that. I mean, Hines is a lock for me. Not even second guessing, not starting with him. So that's the way I saw it.
Yeah, good stuff. Indigenous All-Stars won 22-14, and we had another streak of Rabbitohs captain winning the All-Stars, which is interesting. But, I mean, as you said, there's not a lot of club connections in this that really played too much into fantasy. Was there much else that stood out to you, Mr. Charity, for someone to look out for coming into this new year?
I think it's tough to say. Shaq Mitchell looked really good. I was a bit worried about him just because of what I saw from last year. He has his moments, but in this game, I thought he was really impressive. Xavier Willison, I was contemplating, do I put him in my team? Don't I put him in my team? I had him in there, and now I'm like, this is just too good to have. So Willison, I think he scored something like 63 Supercoach points from an article that I saw. So just really showing what his potential is as a starting front rower. I can't wait for the day where he's partnered with Haas and they're just going at oppositions. It's going to be, once he fills into his body, he's going to be an incredible player. He already is one now, so that's great to see. Leo Thompson as well. He was a tough leader. When he was leading the haka, I was instantly terrified. But then you saw him running at opposition teams and tackling the other players. I just thought, geez, this guy, I would not want to come up against him. He's kind of got that Fisher Harris vibe about him. So yeah, that was for me. Those are the ones that really impressed.
Yeah. Any additions to that, Rob?
I mean, I liked. It was good to see Latrell, I guess, early on get a good touch and get a good assist early on. Sweeping on the left hand side. I know it's there's been a few injuries lately for South, especially on the right hand side. So there's obviously their left's their strong point. I imagine most of the ball's going to go down that track. And it was good to see Latrell execute that really early and really crisply. He was probably the other player I was looking at closely in this game, just to see what his physique was. If he looked fit, interested. I know he's always going to get up for these sort of games on the Indigenous side, but it was good to see him get a good early involvement, and that's.
Yeah,
I think looking at the teams, there were a couple of moments where I thought I'm not too sold on this player, like Jack Howarth. I wasn't 100% convinced on him. He had some good touches and some good moments, but for me, I just don't think he's ready for first grade. We could see him come in to first grade this season, but I think after watching that game, I wasn't sold on him as a player, and I don't think I'll be bringing him in. Maybe I'll be proved wrong. Who knows? And then Curran as well was pretty disappointing in comparison to like what we've seen in terms of the hype for him coming into this season. The night before, having Jamin Salmon perform so well at 13, and then Josh Curran threw nothing at the opposition other than a punch to Jazz Tavanga that I think I saw in that second half. That was he pretty much his best moment was when he stood up to the haka at the start of the match and that punch at the end. So yeah, I was really disappointed in Curran. I had him in my team and traded him out after that game. I'm not convinced with him as a player anymore.
Yeah, fair. Another takeaway for me is that Cheese needs to not get injured. Please, just stay fit. We need somebody to be available at hooker that isn't super duper expensive.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the weekend's games now?
Yep.
Yes.
Radio. Sharks versus Knights. I was really impressed by just how well all of the options to the 5/8 spot performed. I mean, you had Will Price going well, you had Cogger going well, you had Gamble sitting there. I don't think it's made it any clearer at all, really. Did you have any that stood out to you, Mr. Charity?
I had a couple, and I think this one stood out for everyone. I cast your memory back to last season and the trial matches, the Eels versus the Knights, I remember, and there was this winger for the Knights that scored, I think, 129 Supercoach points in that trial match. And his name was Greg Marju. Goes on to have such a dominant season. We then see this young bloke, Armstrong, come in. He scored 109 Supercoach points in this game. He was very impressive. And not just the 2 tries, I think that it was that he got. Just his work rate seemed like this guy is going to be a really, really good player. I don't know if he gets a crack this season, but I was very, very impressed by what I saw out of him. Like you said, Sharp, he looked pretty nice. Cogger just made immediate impact as soon as he came on. For me, it was a very, very sloppy game, though. I was just watching both of these teams. I know they're reserve grade teams, essentially, but the start was very, very sloppy, and it opened up towards the back end off the back of the work that the team had done sort of in that first part. But there are about 1,000 errors in this first half that just sort of left me thinking I'm not 100% on a lot of these players, but that was sort of just my take on what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's a trial match. There's early season rust, and these are 2 teams that are potentially battling to not drop too much after doing decently well last year. I think we will see a lot better footy from them going forward. Yeah, I mean, 44-18 probably isn't going to be a great reflection of how they are going to be throughout the year. Somebody I was pretty impressed, though, by, I think there's going to be a lot of competition with this spot. Dylan Lucas will not let go of that spot. Rob, that we've got guys like Barry Toohey saying that they want Kai Pearce-Paul starting, but what do you think? Is there going to be a world where he just stays starting and he keeps Pearce-Paul on the bench?
It could be a nightmare situation where it's just you can't drop him, and then what do you do with Kai Pearce-Paul and it almost could get to the situation where they steal minutes or steal points off each other, So, but obviously if he gets that start, at 500K, the center wing is gold. At the end of the day, you plug someone in that he can guarantee you high 40s, 50s each week, and that. Sign me up if he gets the spot. So he was really impressive from what I saw.
I think with Dylan Lucas, though, I actually wasn't as impressed with him. I know he scored. I think it was 69 Supercoach points with 2 tries. But you look at his actual base stats. He had 55 run meters and 12 tackles. Compare that to Jed Cartwright, who's almost half the price. He had 62 run meters and 17 tackles, and then 29 post-contact meters in comparison to Lucas's 20. So I actually saw a lot more I liked out of Jed Cartwright than I did Lucas. That may be an unpopular opinion, but for me, the 2 tries were the thing that separated it.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if he gets that left edge spot outside KP, there's upside there. So
yeah, 100%. One thing I did note about Dylan Lucas a few weeks ago is that he looks like somebody who could get second-year syndrome from a base point of view. When you look at all of the top-level edges, they're all averaging around high 20s, low 30s tackles, apart from like your Nat Butcher, who sort of has like a more of a defending in the middle role and stuff like that. Dylan Lucas, when he was playing second row last year, averaged 42 tackles, which is like 5th for the comp or something. He's an edge. He won't do that again. So you will have some drop. And it's just a matter of how much attack will he get, and will he actually get the 80 minutes, or will they do that split? I wasn't expecting the Knights to be a team where there's a potential risky minute split like the Roosters or something, but I mean, that could be a situation that we get into.
I mean, I guess the benefit with the Knights rotation is, with Jaden Brayley with his health and whatnot, they're always going to carry that utility Phoenix on the bench and that. So it's going to be a 3-forward bench there. So, that's what they're going to go in with the season and that. So I guess that, at least that increase the minutes potential there. But yeah, hopefully that one of them gets the spot, the other one's not on the bench to be seen really. And then it's a clear-cut choice.
Yeah, if they do end up having that situation where they have one on the bench and one starting, and they have Crossland in the team, does that interest you in some of the others? Surely it has to bump up the minutes of someone. I don't know if it directly affects him, but like somebody like Elliott, it just gives him a tiny bit more security. Does that give you any more interest in him, or too early, too many cheap guys?
It's tough to say. I'd have to play it out when I see it, honestly.
Just the way all the chips are falling down at the moment, it's just that little bit of an extra jump at the moment. I don't think a lot of these cheapies that we're speculating to get starts are going to land in that. So I think coach is going to be very, very stretched. I think Elliott's just one of those luxuries, really, when you've got so many options in the 2RF in the mid-price range.
Yeah, okay. We'll go through most of the questions at the end, but we'll have something just popped in. So we've got some injury news on Dom Young, who had a crush tackle, which we'll get to a bit later, and he'll be out for round 1. So not tons of relevance, but we'll see how it pans out. It does probably mess up the center situation a bit. I guess Suaalii might go wing, and then round 2 we'll have to see whether Billy Smith or Suaalii get there for something like that, maybe.
Or maybe Ponga goes onto the wing, because he filled in for them last season when they had wingers out. So potentially they could avoid disruption and then just go with that. But yeah, if they put Suaalii to the wing and then add in those centers, it could just add more headaches for us. But yeah, that's probably what I would be doing if I was Robbo.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out anyway. All right. Anything else from the Sharks and Knights, or it's a trial, move on to the next one and see what the eye test is?
I think Cole, I'm getting this name wrong, Cole Kuhn from the Sharks, dual front row
Cole
2RF. He had good involvement, good work rate for the minutes he had. So he might be, if he gets able to get some good minutes, he'll probably come off the bench if he gets a start in the 17. But if he can get some good minutes, that's a potential. He's a 230K or something like that, dual. So he might pop up and be a good plug.
Scored like 50, I think. 50 or 60. Yeah, 50.
Not bad. Not bad at all. All right. So we'll move on to the Roosters and the Seagulls match next. And the Seagulls were actually able to stay with the Roosters for quite a while in that match. And it didn't do many favors when looking at that rotation. They had Angus, who I wasn't super duper impressed by, and Tupanua starting. So honestly, it's given me more questions than I had before. And I honestly don't think this is probably one thing that will affect my round one teams. I don't know if I can touch them now. I don't know if I trust anybody in that position at the moment alongside Nat Butcher. What about you, Rob? Are you off Roosters edges completely?
Yeah, it's hard to know. You don't know what the rotation is going to be. You don't know how the bench is going to land. There's so many questions. We didn't see Suo Wong. No, we did actually, but the minutes weren't there. Tupanua, I think, had a good outing, but there's no guarantee he's got the spot. Next week can completely change. I think it was, from the Roosters' point of view, they named a really strong lineup. That you had most of their spine, all their spine in, and resembled a first week one team, and they really couldn't put the Seagulls away. So is this sign of the slow start Roosters that we've been accustomed to over the past few years? Especially when you've got a lot of relevant players in the mid range, and because they're round zero as well, you're kind of committing to them before you get the team list on week one. So you either got to kind of commit to them and hope they land the minutes and that, or you can find yourself in trouble come round one team list.
Yeah, it's a tough situation to be in. And speaking of minutes, just the whole Roosters pack is a bit of an unknown and up in the air. Terrell May, another great outing. I reckon by the time we roll around to 2025, he is going to be a gun. He's going to be fantastic. But how many minutes is he going to get, Mr. Charity? Did that make you want to have a piece of Terrell May to start the year, or is it just so hard to pick Roosters?
I had May in my team, and after this, even though he looked good, I'm not 100% sold on him coming in. I think his points per minute is incredible, and if he does get those extra minutes, like for example, if we see for round zero, we see Connor Watson and Sandon Smith on the bench, then okay, there's going to be a little bit of extra minutes in this forward pack and a little bit of extra minutes in these edge back rowers. So you might actually start to see a lot of value coming in. But for me, I'm now looking at, you had the likes of Samuel Hughes and Xavier Willison performing pretty well. If they're starting, or if they're, got some favorable benches, I don't know how confident I am going to be with going for May over those players where you can save money and start investing it elsewhere. I know a lot of people will probably disagree with that take, but for me, I had Watson in my team before this. I traded him out, and then after seeing him score 51 off the bench and not even playing that many minutes, looking really good in a Rooster side that was struggling against a reserve grade Sea Eagles, I was really impressed by what I saw there. So it was May out, Watson in. That could be foolish come round zero, but that's sort of what my eye test said.
Yeah, it's hard to know because they're not going to name another full strength team. A lot of them are going to ship over to Vegas and probably play their reserve grade trial in this next week. So it is going to be hard until we see their lineup at TLT. And to be honest, I'm not looking at many Roosters players at the moment until I know how they're going to work. Rob, did anybody on the other side, on the Seagulls side, interest you?
Not particularly. I mean, like, obviously it was a reserve grade side. You didn't have the heavy hitters like Tommy Turbo and DCE, and that was obviously close on Burbo, how he performed, how involved he was. I think he was a little bit quieter than in terms of his involvement, also his base stats. But obviously if he gets the start really at 270 K and can keep Schuster out the side, then plug him in the center wing and that, and see what happens there. He was probably the main watch out of that. I was also keeping an eye on, because obviously got the wing situation and whatnot on the left hand side, but Raymond Vega, I know he played on the right, but he's in that mid 300s, and if he can, I was keeping an eye on him to see if he could impress and maybe make his way in, because we know that left side, or both sides, both wingers and the Sea Eagles, they get their fair share of balls, fair share of tries, so I was keeping an eye on him. Didn't impress me with he was a bit of a turtle, sprinting down the field. I mean, I saw a lot of comments saying Dom Yum, he's got some wheels on him, which he does, but I think it was more that Vega's a bit of a sloth moving around, so that was quite amusing to see him in the clear.
Yeah, he had some interesting touches, but that is a bit of a knock on him. I don't know if we're going to get an answer until TLT, to be honest. We've got Paulo there, we've got Vega, and I mean, Tommy Talau played centre, but he has potential to play on the wing. So I think we just wait and see that happens. The other relevant-ish news out of that game is Sipley. How many games did he end up getting suspended for? 3 or 4, something like that?
4, I think.
4.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's going to shuffle up the middle a bit. I think that's about the time Matt Lodge is going to return as well. Maybe a little bit after that. So we could see something a bit different to how it starts the season. Yeah,
there's been a bit of chat about Paseka and that, about his involvement, and that's that's obviously a tick for him potentially. But he's starting a little bit expensive in mid-5s, I believe it is, from the top of my head. So
555.
He's probably a bit too much to pay for him, but obviously with Sipley with a 4-week suspension, it might mean a bit more minutes or weight on his shoulders to carry that pack a bit.
Yeah, as you said though, because he's already mid 500s, what are you buying him for? Are you hoping to get him up to 650 and then selling him? It's sort of a rough position to do too much trading because he's going to come back down then if it goes back to normal afterwards. So unless you really reckon Paseka's going to have a breakout year, keep good minutes, I don't know if he's really an option for me.
I think what probably comes more into effect is going to be Nathan Brown now. Maybe struggling to break into that 17 now with Lodge and Sipley out for those first few weeks. That could make Brown super coach relevant. So that's a bit of an eye test there for you.
Yeah. Well, what am I looking for? I'm missing someone. I can't remember. We'll come back to it later if I remember. Is anything else from this game that interested you, or we'll move on to?
I mean, one of the talking points from this, and one of the talking points preseason, was Sam Walker and seeing how he played.
Yes,
I think he scored about a 66, which is pretty good. It's above what his break even is. Nothing too crazy, but it's decent. I'm still steering away from it, but I know it enticed a lot of people to see him coming in. I just think if he's scoring 66 against a reserve grade side, I'm a bit worried about how he's going to do against, the likes of the Broncos, and the Sea Eagles is next, I think, round 2. So it's like, it's some tough competition. I don't know how well we're going to see him, but it was good. It was good to see him.
Did he have the goal kicking? Out of curiosity.
I can't remember.
Yes, he had goal kicking.
Yeah.
What do you
And
get? You got
Suwali was in the team.
4 out of 7.
Yeah, so Suwali is in the team. So I think that kind of says, look, he's got the goal kicking at least, so that's, obviously that's a big tick for Sam Walker if anyone wanted to go down that route. I mean, obviously without the kicking, he'd be absolutely no go. You would not consider him.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Moving on to everybody's favorite cheapie team, Eels versus Raiders. Good hit out by a couple of guys. I think the Raiders young blokes did a really good job of standing up to and performing against this Eels team. They really ran away with it at the end there. Weeks had some good touches. Strange did all right. If you were to pick one of the two, who do you reckon Mr. Charity's winning the race for that 5/8 spot?
If you had asked me before this game, I was saying Strange. I just think Strange is built for first grade. I don't think Weeks is built for first grade. After seeing this, Weeks played really well. And I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm wrong. Weeks played really, really well. That try where the Parramatta team decided to just not try and catch the ball, and then Kotrick got it and instantly kicked it, and then Weeks scored diving in the corner. That was a beautiful try. I think Weeks is ahead, and it's making me contemplate putting him in, but it's Ricky Stewart. You just don't know what you're going to get. He'll probably play 2 games, and then Ethan Strange will come in, and then they'll move Sebastian Chris to 5/8 2 weeks after that. So who knows? But Weeks for me after that game, he should be in.
Yeah, didn't do a lot of kicking. Strange. I mean, they didn't have Fogarty on the park, obviously.
Yeah.
Strange did more of kicking than Weeks and played more of a 7 role. Yeah, it was good to see Kotrick have that little touch and Weeks do all right, because we do need a couple of centre wing cheapies to pop up, because at the moment it's looking a bit dire. Chevy Stewart kind of looked a little bit timid to me. There could be a couple of low scores in him to start the year if he is there round 1. Did you have any concerns with Chevy Stewart?
I mean, this is actually probably the one name I didn't see because it was on my anniversary dinner, and Parramatta's my team, and I came home, looked at the score, what? Of course, of course. No, but I watched the I guess the KO bite and caught up on it, and from the score that I saw on the social for Chevy Stewart, it seemed like his involvement wasn't there. He's going to struggle to get involved in the attack, and you would expect some low scores there. Obviously, his price is bottom dollar, and that's how you just need an attacking stat here and there to get his price moving in the right direction. It's at the moment, I've got all 3 of these cheapies at the moment, the Raiders, and don't know how it's going to go at the moment. It's I don't think all 3 will land. I think Weeks has got the 6 at the moment, and I guess he's the pick at the moment for me, especially once we talk about the other games as well. Some of the other options, I think, ruled themselves out, really. So, I
think for me, looking at the cheapies, if we're going off trial performance, picking the team, Schiller was incredible.
I mean, the highlights, that's all I heard. Schiller, so, he definitely performed, so.
You look at that whole back line, and based off Fox League's Supercoach points, you got Chevy Stewart that scored 8, Nick Kotrick who scored 26, Hopewadi who scored 32, Savage that scored 22, then you have Schiller that scored 57, and he's 238k. If you're going off performances in the trials, he's an exciting one that could be everyone's savior coming out of nowhere as well.
Yeah,
really. Yeah,
I reckon he's probably playing himself into a centre spot for round 1. When Chris comes back, he could well lose that. But yeah, I think he's pushed himself up the pecking order a little bit.
Definitely.
Yeah, someone that had a pretty solid outing, didn't do his chances any harm for round 1. Brendan Hands. We haven't seen much of Lussick yet, really, but I'm keen to see how that battle goes, because Brad Arthur has come out and said that one of them's going to play 80, but I mean, who is it? Who's going to do it? I've sort of been of the opinion that Lussick previously, but I don't know. Did you have any?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, follow Parramatta die hard, and that I think, Brendan Hands is, without seeing Joey Lussick, I'm sure he'll get a try. But I think Hands has got the nod at the moment. From what we saw last year as well, when he came in, obviously Josh Hodgson, so he had his struggles and that. Brendan Hands came in, really changed the dynamic of the team, had good involvement, showed he could play 80 as well. And in the times that he did play 80, he scored pretty well and that. So I think there's a small sample size in that. I think Brad Arthur, can rely on that to know that get a full off season into him, get the fitness up, and try and get 80 out of him. So I'm confident that Brendan Hands has got the spot. And he looked good from the highlights that I saw. Was involved and nearly got a try there. But yeah, I think out of the cheapy hookers between him and Jaden Brayley, I'd be going him for sure.
Oh, 100%, especially since Brayley's in doubt for round one, or has he basically been ruled out for round one? Will be back.
Ruled out for trials. Ruled out for trials and racing to make it for round one. Yeah. So
that just screams eased in to me. I mean, he's coming back from injury, but didn't play much. I really think there's going to be a huge split. Maybe I think he'll be good eventually. He just might take even longer to get there now. And so early season money making, do you just leave him for a month and go elsewhere and wait?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, it's looking at doing either a gun or a mid-ranged, hooker, and then having either the likes of Hands or Lussick, whoever gets the nod for that position, and then wait and see how many minutes Brayley gets. He could be eased in and only playing 20 minutes, scoring you maybe like a 15 or a 20 or whatever. So I'd be steering clear of that and looking directly for Hands or Lussick.
Yep. All right. We might get on to the next team because we've still got 4 to go. Should race through these last few. The Rabbitohs, they're pretty decimated, but Braden Burns chucked his hand up. Richard Kenner scored a try, and the Rabbitohs won their 11th Shield in 12 years or something. I think that really they've got to hit the ground running. They named a pretty strong team. Sean Keppie had a really good hit out. I wouldn't be surprised if he was starting over Burgess alongside Totola this year. What about you, Rob? Did you how did you feel that middle rotation is going to pan out?
Yeah, I mean, I watch this game quite closely because at the moment I've got Totola as my front row 2 at the moment. He's priced at 42 points, I believe, and he's had a couple of injuries and whatnot, but he's the leader of that pack now. Really, you got Cam Murray, but really in the front row rotation, he's the guy at the moment. Burgess is getting on, and that Keppie's obviously come across, new club and whatnot. So it was good to he looked decent as well. So I'm pretty confident he can plug him. I'm happy to plug him in, for 50 points, and then kind of work out how to work my way up or who's kind of up and coming. Yeah, Keppie was really good. He had some really good touches and that. Good to see also that he had the offload as well. I believe he had a good offload connecting with Murray for the one of the tries. I believe it was Kenner or Burns and that. So, good to see him because, he wasn't really being talked about, but, he's, in the 300s and, could be, depending on the minute rotation and that, he could potentially be a front row 2, potentially, along with Sam Hughes and that, pick him on matchups and that, and see how the minutes land.
Yeah, I'm not super confident on his PPM, but he did have a good hit out. And I mean, it's a different team. His role might be slightly different. But yeah, I am pretty keen on Totola myself. I also have him in front row 2. Mostly just because the Burgess back to England news it just consolidates him as he is the big boy of that pack now. He's the leader, and probably locks him in for around 50 minutes a week. They'll want him on the park as one of the senior middle forwards.
I was a little bit off Totola. I don't know what everyone was talking about with how impressive he was. He had some decent runs and decent minute, but he scored like a 35 Supercoach points. Keppie scored a little bit more, but with the try, obviously, but Moali ended up scoring more points than Kepi and Totola. I had Totola and May in my team, and after watching the trials, I took them out. I could be changing my mind again off the back of these next trials, but yeah, for me, Totola, yes, should step up, but I definitely think Kepi showed that he can step up, and I had Kepi for a big portion of last year, and he was just super useful to plug and play in between bye rounds, was constantly scoring me a 50, or maybe a 40, every now and again a 30, but like was just performing really, really well for me. So I'm a bit high on Kepi. I've now traded him into my team. And Moali is maybe worth a look, but we'll see how everything plays out come round 0.
Yeah, Moali was pretty good. It's just really hard to get either of Wilson or Sam Hughes out of your team unless you're planning on using one of them at front row 2. And that's starting to get into dangerous territory. Like you'd have to want them to be your 17th player if you're going to do that at all. Has that sort of thing even crossed your mind, Rob, running a really, really cheap front row 2?
I say to myself every year, because I feel like I make the same mistake, just pay up front row, get Haas, get Tino, get whoever, and then I'm like, where's the first place you got to save money? It's front row. I feel like you can only have these guys your front row 2 if you're starting with Payne Haas. If you're not starting with Payne Haas, I don't think you can consider it. You're just leaving too many points on the table. You're running high risk, and at the end of the day, you're going to be burning trades and that trying to fix it and that. So that's the only scenario I can see you running a Sam Hughes as your front row 2 or a Wilson there. At the moment, I'm going, as mentioned, Totola's my front row 2. I'm going with Max King at the moment as my front row 1 at the moment. But that could change depending on TLT and how many cheapies come in. And if I just learn prior year lessons, just pay up, I guess.
Yeah, I've done that setup with the Haas and Hughes as front row forward 2 off the back of these games. So it'll be interesting to see how all this plays out.
Yeah, it'll be good. Someone who have been interested in, but I'm probably off a little bit after seeing, I guess, the split in the role. I've gone back to weeks now from Kyle Flanagan. There was a little bit of interest, especially if he was going to goal kick over Lomax, but we didn't see that. So that takes away a good portion of his ceiling. And I mean, when you're playing for the Dragons next to who's supposed to be a dominant kicker, even though the coach says that his son's going to do more this year, I wasn't super enthused at what I saw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have Flanagan in my team and am contemplating. I never wanted to do the trade down to weeks, but I'm contemplating it after the game. I thought he was good. It's not bad, but just not what I needed to see.
Yeah.
Can we just thank the Lord that the Dragons managed to score 1 try so we could see who was goal kicking at the other day?
Imagine week 2.
Like, thank the Lord. I had Flanagan as my on the bench in my 5'8". As soon as I saw he wasn't kicking, straight out. You can't. The Dragons looked horrible as well. I think there are a lot of hopes for the Dragons to improve under Shane Flanagan. You get that steely resolve that he's known for and whatnot. But I think seeing this as well, especially against a South side where they didn't have Cody and Latrell and a couple of others there. The right side was decimated. The Dragons are really going to struggle this year. They might put up a fight early on, but they're really going to be fighting for the spoon. That's all I really saw from them, to be honest.
I think after watching that game, Sloan needs to go straight to Supercoach jail. We can't be having. I brought Sloan in after that Roosters game foolishly, and it hurts. Just watching him play, there's just these moments where you're like, Sloan. And just instantly does something amazing and then drops the ball immediately after, or just has these brain snaps. I think he needs to go to New South Wales Cup and just get some more runs under his belt and then move Lomax to fullback, please. Let's just try that.
I reckon he's basic. Reece Walsh isn't afraid to throw the ball and make a few mistakes, but he hits a lot more often than he misses. And I think that Sloan is a Dragons version of Reece Walsh, to be honest.
Sloan is Reece Walsh if you order from Wish. That's what you get.
He will be relevant this year. He will get cheap enough. He will get cheap enough. He'll get to the buy period. He'll be cheap.
What are the odds of me bringing him into my team? What do you think?
Sloan drops from 540 to 340 and someone goes down around 13. Could look mighty tempting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dry Gray was really impressive.
Yeah.
I know the words about him could be anything, but he got like a rain of fire in his first like opening stint, had so much thrown at him, made a couple of mistakes, but the way he bounced back, some of his sweeping edge plays, when he grows into his body, he's going to be a very, very good player. I'm really looking forward to him in the next couple of years coming through.
He does need probably those couple of years though, because isn't he the lightest player in the NRL at the moment? 78 kilos or something.
He looked like me up against all these other NRL players. It was just crazy.
He needs a bit more size. He needs to turn into a Lachlan Galvin, who the Eels decided was too small, and grow another 3 or 4 inches and another 5 or 10 kilos easily.
Stop it. We're all Eels supporters here, so we can't be tormenting ourselves like this.
It's so good. Triple Eels podcast, hey.
Oh, here we go. God.
Yeah.
Don't listen to anything we say. No.
Look, this is probably the happiest point we'll be at this year.
Yeah. Buy Mitchell Moses, everybody.
Yeah.
He's the incumbent. That's all I'll say. He's the incumbent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll move on to the next game where we had a bit of drama, to be honest. We had Zion Mayhew sent off 20 minutes in, and the Warriors still managed to stay in touch pretty much that whole game. So we had... I've got a little bit of interest in Seyfarth now. Like the rumors and the mail that he'll start lock, or at least is in contention to start lock, are getting stronger and stronger. And I was reasonably happy with what I saw.
Yep. Scored. What is it?
Good try. It was a good try. Good line. Yeah.
Scored like 51. Great.
Yep.
Yeah. Good stuff. I was pretty keen. And this is probably going to be one of the more relevant things we'll find out of this trial, is that Appy was goal kicking over Seiza. I was not expecting that. Rob, does that change your hooker calculations?
Yes, it does, because I was the double cheapy hooker set up, and obviously Jaden Brayley, his doubts in that can't do it, and to go up, obviously there's a big jump there, and I had Reece Robson in there just kind of plug and kind of just work out what I was going to do if I could make the jump potentially JMK, but then lo and behold, Appy's kicking, and same price as Reece, so he's straight in at the moment. I know it can be a bit of a risk because they've got the bye round 1, so hopefully that him kicking overseas, it just kind of confirms that he's got the kicking, and that it's just whether you think Tigers have got enough points in them. And I guess from what I saw from Appy today, he's still going to be involved heavily in their attack. He set up a nice try to kick things off and everything like that. So, he's in my hooking slot at the moment. I'm happy to play hands round 1 just to cover while he's on the bye, and then after that, his next bye, I believe, is not until round 13 or something like that, on the major bye, and that's, you get a good run. He maintains that kicking. Hopefully, you can bridge that gap up to JMK or Harry Grant. Hopefully, they stay a bit quiet early on.
Yeah, the Tigers have got a pretty shocking bye schedule, to be honest, for the players. They've got no round 1, and then they got round 13, round 26. So they're going to be absolute. They've got 1 in a 25-week period. So they're going to be absolutely busted by the end of the year. But it does mean that it's really good for Tigers players during Origin. And I mean, if Uppy's scoring well enough, maybe he's a guy we can carry through that period and finally upgrade to a second really good guy as we come into the run home.
Mm.
Yeah.
There are a couple of good things to pull out of this game. I think the one thing that was really good for every NRL supporter was seeing Roger Tuivasa-Sheck back in the game.
Roger.
Oh, Roger, it's so good to have you back. I mean, what was it? He scored something like 49 Supercoach points and went off with I think it was 20 or 30 minutes left in the game.
That tackle as well. It's just good to see it.
Dumped.
It's just so good to have him back in the league. I don't care if he scored a 3. It was just good to see him back in the league. But just performed really, really well. And I think is now causing a big headache for a lot of people at that CTW position. If he was under 500K, I think everyone would be bringing him in. I think they'd be like, yep, this is a good mid-ranger. But at that I think it's 530, 520, something like that.
539.
It's just such an uncomfortable price. You have to downgrade a Hammer or a Karaz to him to bring him into your calculations, or get rid of a Marju, go from Marju to best and then Taylor May to Tuivasa-Sheck. And I don't know how many people are comfortable with making that decision, and particularly with seeing the Warriors potentially regress this season. Who knows what is going to happen? But yeah, it's a tough one. I really want to find a way to bring him in, but I don't think I'm going to be able to.
Yeah, I'm happy to sit on him. He was great to see him. He was involved in that. He didn't roam, I think, but when maybe they get the team back and that, we might see what his actual role would be. But it looked like he was just going to be playing on the left-hand side. We know the Warriors like to go right a lot of the time. So SJ operates on that side. That's where the ball's going to go. I think I'm happy to sit because I don't think he'll burn you, and I don't think he'll ever get out of reach. And that I think when his would become relevant is if CNK ever goes down. If he goes straight to fullback, he is straight in at that
wheels
price.
up. Yeah, Rod, you can't say no to a 530K fullback, Roger. You can do it if he's center or even wing to a degree, but yeah, fullback if it ever happens, straight in. The other center though, Leia, what's his name? Leia Tower. Did you guys make much of him?
Yeah, I mean, he's good. It'll be interesting to see sort of if he plays in the starting 13. But for me, I'm steering away from it. From what I can see, it looks like he scored 20 Supercoach points. So I'm not super on him, but yeah, we'll see.
What was his price?
Basically basement, 238.
Look, if he gets a spot and that his basement price, then I don't think we got the luxury this year. We're going to have too many choices. Yeah.
I think for me, one that really impressed, because I've been tossing around with throwing him into my Supercoach team every year, but just never really seen the upside in doing it. But Bunty Afoa had a killer game in this trial. I thought he really stood up in that position. It'll just be whether or not he is playing extra minutes in this team. I don't think he will be with Tohu Harris and Fanua Blake, but I was really impressed by what I saw from this game.
Yeah, I think them putting Capewell there probably pushes Nukore to the bench, and they've got him on a lot of money. They're going to want him playing a pretty good role. Yeah. And I just can't see anything but a big squeeze for Bunty unless there's a few injuries.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, not probably Supercoach relevant for us now, but definitely I was really impressed by what I saw from him in this trial game with what was in front of him. So I think one of the things that was probably a letdown in this game was Samuela Fainu. I've got really big raps on him coming into the league, but just seems to have a bit of a temper. And it'll be interesting to see if he does start playing, if he does take sort of minutes off any of those forwards or second rowers that we see coming in. But yeah, for me, I was contemplating having him in my 2RF, but after seeing that game, I don't know if he's ready for it.
I mean, in the game as well, I just wanted to point out Aiden Caesar and his first look at. I thought he performed really well. Obviously, directed them really well, organised them. Obviously got to try in that. So I think he's really going to add something to the Tigers in that. Obviously, Appy was the sole person last year. Jareem Buller obviously came onto the scene and that. I think Aiden Seas will definitely help them out. So I think the Tigers will, definitely be a bit more competitive this year. They've got a good forward pack. Caesar's a veteran. He'll know how to get them around the park. So I think there'll be a bit more of a stauncher test for opposition.
Yeah. I would just like to see them improve because they've been down the bottom for a little bit. So here's hoping that Appy and Caesar can get a bit of a good combo going. All right. And anything else from that game, or we'll move on to the double Queensland teams.
Let's go.
All right. So we had another team that was, it wasn't perfectly full strength, but it was getting close. We had the Broncos beating the Cowboys 46-20. We saw a few good performances. Payne Haas is Payne Haas, and it's the preseason, but you would like to see your gun start off with a bang. Is there anything that would push you off Payne Haas after seeing how he played today, or it's just a trial, let it go through?
Yeah, that's one for me.
Yeah, I'm really happy to let this one through. It's probably the worst game I've seen him play, but yeah, it's a trial. It's imagine Kevy's just saying, just make sure you get on that plane. I think to most of these guys. So happy to let that one through. I'm not starting with him at the moment. He's just a bit too much. I don't think he'll burn you per se, but I'll want him pretty quickly because he's the most consistent front row in that. So yeah.
Yeah. One player from that game that is reasonably relevant, Brendan Piakura looked pretty good in attack, scored a double, but then I think he left the game in a knee brace or something, didn't he?
Yeah.
Have we got any more news on that since then, or it's just knee
brace? I saw it was
out?
a light knee strain. So from what I saw, there was a tweet that said he'll getting scans, but he should be okay for the Vegas trip. But obviously a big watch.
Yeah, he scored really, really well this game as well. So a bit of a shame to see him go out. But yeah, I've been high on Piakura, but I've had him in and out of my team this season. So depending on how long he's out for, whether it's just missing this next trial and then on the plane to Vegas, or whether he might be out for a couple of weeks, it's just a wait and see for him. But really, really impressive from what we saw.
Yeah, he obviously scored 2 tries in that, but his base wasn't there. So you really, I feel like, relying on attack with him. And obviously the Broncos have got a tough draw to start with, obviously going over to Vegas, smaller field and whatnot, not going to be as much space in that. So, I'm still a bit on the fence with him. I don't think we'll get to see him again. So it'll be one of those gut calls, I guess, whether I think the Broncos are going to really start hot and he's going to, get a fair shed of ball and get those attacking stats.
Yeah, it's a good call. On the Cowboys side, I was a little bit surprised. I kind of forgot that Tom Chester was playing. He's back pretty early from that ACL injury, isn't he? I thought he was still out for a little bit.
Yeah, I think he was all right on the 9 months he's come back. So he's back probably from the recovery time, but probably won't be performing at his full potential on that. So he always just, I think that at first off the kickoff to drop one and whatnot, so he's just small. He's kind of like what you're saying with Gray from South. He just seems really small for the league and that. So he's always got a bit of speed about him, but probably needs to put a bit more size on.
I think what was really impressive was his replacement. So once he went off, young Purdue, I think it is. I think that's how you say it.
Right. That was a sick try, that one.
He came, not just the try, he ended up with 180 run meters. So, he performed really, really well. And he's a kid. I was looking at him going, how are you even 18 yet? He's got a bit about him. And once he grows into his body again, I know I've said that a couple of times, but once he grows into his body, similar with Chester as well. But once they do that, they're going to be a pretty good player. I really liked what I saw from young Purdue.
Yeah. Any of the cheap guys from the Cowboys, Piakura or Robert Derby, not the greatest outing. we just wait and see for who we get in centre wing?
Yeah, I've got a cheapie that I think looked really, really good. Fini Fuiaki. I don't know if you've heard the name.
Love him.
He's
He's so good.
he's like 260k or something like that. Like if Luciano Leilua does get released, and then you've got Hylam Lukey and Fini Fuiaki in your second front rowers or in that interchange set, like that's really, really tempting to go to.
It's just going to be hard. I mean, like, yeah, the Leilua news is actually big because, you know, I'm big on Lukey. You know, I'm really big on him. And obviously you've got Nanai on the other side, and that who's going to get the spot as well. So, I mean, yeah, Fini Fuiaki, I think every time I've seen him play, he's been so impressive. And the Cowboys just seem to roll out these back rowers. Like, it's got a factory for them, you know. I think, you know, I just hope he's a great player, but I just hope he doesn't end up on the bench, you know, because I really want to see Lukey get a good run because you know, with what I've seen from him, if he can just get 60 minutes consistently, yeah, he is going to score well. Yeah, he can bust the line. He's got a good work rate. Really keen on him. So that's who I'm interested in.
You know,
Yeah, Lukey.
Sorry, go.
Yeah, Lukey has the ability to go for a try and turn a okay score into a really good score, even not in 80 minutes. What did he do last year? Let me have a look. Yeah, 121 in 60 minutes and 87 in 71 minutes. So we know he has a really good ceiling. And if he does get a consistent role, I mean, he's around the same price, even a little more expensive than some of those other second row options, but he's got real high upside, could make you some quick money.
Yeah, I like him because there's a couple of things. Like he's no early buy as well, so you're going to get a really good run. You're not going to lose him. Firstly, secondly, as you said, he's one of the higher priced mids. So I'm happy to kind of start with him, and if he doesn't work out, it's just easy to go down rather than starting with a 420 KR and then he comes out and kills it, and you got to try and find 50 grand. So I like that element as well, where you kind of just get that structure right. So you can take that gamble. If it pays off, fantastic. If it doesn't, okay, we'll move down to whoever is performing in that range.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Any more out of this game, or Broncos full strength versus Cowboys nowhere near full strength? Not a lot else to read into.
If anyone wants to ride the Reece Walsh train, I think we just saw once again the highs and lows. You know, just
he scored 110. It looks like
it was all in the second half as well. It's just, and he's done that a lot of times. He did that a lot last year, where he was just really quiet and then bang. Yeah, he is just one player that in 10 minutes can go from 10 to 120. He's that guy.
Yeah. His try assist for the Cowboys was pretty good as well. That was
Did you
pretty
get points
crazy
for that too?
I think you'd want to hope so, right? But no, unfortunately not. I think Cobbo as well just looked effortless at center. It was really good to see though. Like he just was it the try or the try assist that he scored where he jumped up and caught it and then just kept running. I thought there was a knock on because of how casual he was about it. Like just goes to show what a freak athlete he is and how good he can be without, you know, the couple of errors that are in his game. Him and Reece Walsh this year, their combination, if he stays at center, will be very, very interesting to see how they link up, similar to how Farnworth and Walsh linked up last season.
Yeah, that'll be big.
I have a question for you, Scoop. Seeing the young number 9 for the Cowboys, Mullaney, I think it was, he's got something like 60 Supercoach points. Is this the end of Jake Granville on the bench, and maybe they're going to throw him in as the replacement hooker, or what do you think?
Not the end of Jake Granville's season. What do you mean? He's the guy who'll get down to basement in round 13. Then we pick him up when Robson goes to Origin. Yeah,
Done.
Look, you do have to admit Granville's time is limited. It's going to be coming to an end very soon. It could be time to inject some youth in. A solid performance from him might well see him get on the fringes, but we'll have to see how it lines up in round one. We might see a Chester in the 14. We might see Granville. We might see him. So we'll just have to wait and see, but it is a possibility, I guess.
Does Granville have his hooker fullback duel? That's the only thing I'll ever remember about it. One of the greatest duels you'll ever get.
So good.
Crazy.
All right. We've been going for a while. We might as well move on to the last game of the round, and that was the Finns and Titans, which was just finishing off as we were getting here. So I didn't catch too much of this, but it looks like Farnworth and Lemuelu were in for a couple of tries. Did you guys see much of this before you hopped on the pod?
Yes, I did. It was quite close actually early on, and then opened up towards the back end of it. Yeah, Lemuelu played really well. I think he had one or two errors, which those were the ones where I looked over and saw Lemuelu making an error and went, oh, damn, he mustn't have performed really well. And then smacks out a 55 off the bench, which was pretty good. Wallace played really, really well. Tafare, when he came off the bench, was damaging. So that's given a little bit of a headache for the people deciding whether they want, wing centers to throw them in there. Avarillo, Bostock, all of those question marks. Tafare came in and said, no, don't forget about me. So, yeah, quite interesting. And I think the biggest thing to take from this was the fact that Avarillo was off the bench. So he wasn't starting in that center role. So that's, I think, a bit... I thought he would have locked down that spot. But, yeah, it's quite interesting. That's from the Dolphins. From the Titans, there wasn't too much to write home about, to be honest. I think it's Tony Francis, the guy that scored the double for the Titans. I thought it was Khan Pereira backing up after the Indigenous All-Stars, but he played really well. The finishes that he had on his two tries were pretty impressive. So adds a little bit more of a question mark to the back line for the Titans.
Yeah. What did you make of the battle for the second row spot while Fifita was out? Did anybody catch your eye?
For the Dolphins?
For the Titans.
I kind of wish Fermor kind of had a run in this trial and could see him on the left. I think that's the biggest thing, really Fermor's at that right price, but he's got to be starting on the left, So if we get confirmation that that's going to occur, and you get a few other rounds of Fermor on the left with the draw that they've got running a foreign, he could really quickly bump up really quickly by the time Fifita comes back, and then you flip him up.
Yeah, I don't think too many second row forward questions were answered in this game for the Titans. What was it? Howe and Cleese Haas and Stimson were in that position. Yeah, I just there wasn't much to take from this from the Titans. I think the only thing to take from it is there's maybe a headache throwing in that Tony Francis, Shop, and Harley Smith Shields, and Mamalo. I forgot Mamalo was there, but. You've got a pretty decent backline there in your reserve grades. Then you've got the actual team that's in there, plus Jojo Fifita. It's very confusing, that Titans backline.
Yeah, even the Dolphins second row of battle isn't super decided because you've got Aitken starting second row, Lemuelu off the bench. So do they go for the attack of Lemuelu, or do they go for the defense of Aitken? And I don't know if we'll know that before TLT.
I can see Lemuelu becoming sort of like a Nickera player that comes off the bench as an impact player, similar to sort of like Ryan Madison for the Eels. He comes off the bench to make impact, but a really good solid player that has some upside. That's where I sort of see Lemuelu being added into this team, now seeing Aitken and Kafusi starting there. Plus you've got Gilbert. He played 13, but you could easily play him on an edge and throw like a Wallace into 13 or whoever. It's a tough one.
Yeah, that's fair. With the Appy Coruscant news, we're getting to the end. I might answer a couple of questions. With the Appy Coruscant news, if you were considering JMK with the early draw, would you potentially switch to an Appy down from JMK?
off the back of this game, because I'm big on Jeremy Marshall-King. I had him for a lot of last year, and he was just such a good performer. Take out his injury games, and he averaged almost the same as Harry Grant, and he's 100K cheaper. So Jeremy Marshall-King I was all in on. But seeing Harrison Graham come in, he scored 64 in this game. It looks like he had a really solid hit out. I can maybe see there be a little bit more minutes now for Harrison Graham coming in, playing off there, or maybe even a Max Plath. Like, who knows sort of how that plays out, but I can definitely see JMK getting some rest now.
Did Max Plath do his jaw? I thought he might have done his jaw in this game. He came off with a bit of blood in that, so not sure.
I didn't see that part of it, but maybe, yeah. Harrison Graham, really, really impressive. And I think that throws a spanner in the works now that you can see Coruscant goal kicking. I think a lot of people, if we could see what the most popular trades were, I think we'd see a JMK to Coruscant potentially, or a Jaden Brayley to Coruscant this season. I don't know if I would do it in that position, but I can understand why people would, and it's very appetizing.
Yeah, 100%. That was a question from Super Corrupt just before regarding the JMK and the Appy switch. But yeah, I think there could be some movement there. Goals is huge. I mean, he kicked 0.9 goals a year last year, and I mean, the Tigers won't score crazy numbers of tries, but you'd expect that'd give him at least like another 6-8 points, or even more potentially from having maybe 2 extra goals a game.
I mean, I think the thing that I kind of like is, I know they got the round 1 bye, but the draw is good. If it was a bit more of a tougher draw, then you'd probably say, well, how much will goal kicking impact? But really, he's got the draw. So, I mean, if the Tigers are going to improve and whatnot, you'd like to, and I'm hoping that Benji kind of instills an attacking mindset there. So I'm hoping there's opportunity that, he's taking 4 or 5 attempts at goal. If he's getting those, that's, 12 to 16 points if he slots them.
I think off the back of this game as well, there's probably some question marks around Bostock. I know he scored a try and had decent points, but I don't know. I wasn't really impressed by him, and I think with Tafare coming in, I don't know if they would do this, but maybe Avarillo on the wing, because he's got a good work rate with those kick returns potentially. Have Avarillo on the wing and then Tafare in the center. Tafare had a brilliant tip-on pass to Tessie New. No, not Tessie New. Who was it? Someone else scored a try. I'm blanking at the moment. But yeah, that was a beautiful tip-on pass that we saw. So I think Tafare maybe has put his hand up to say that. And Bostock, I think, needs a little bit more time in reserve grade to build up into that wing spot. But who knows? He might start. Yeah. I think Farnworth as well, actually. Sorry, Farnworth was really, really impressive. God, he looks good in a Dolphins jersey. And then had a bit of a hit out at fullback. So that was exciting to see. So we'll see how that sort of plays out throughout the rest of the year. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see a Hammer and Farnworth swap from center to fullback. But yeah, it leaves some question marks there, the fact that they wanted to trial him at fullback.
Yeah, I think... I mean, when they were coming across signing Farnworth on that money, he had to be locked in. And so I do think they'll keep him at centre most of the time, but he is a very, very handy backup. Yeah. So, Rob, have you got much anything else you wanted to share on this game, or we'll grab a couple more questions before we finish off?
Just Flegler. Didn't get the first half, but I was wondering what his involvement might have been, because obviously there's been a lot of talk in the off season. Obviously the big money signing in the front row forward, and that the leader of the pack. Obviously had a huge watch in him. So I don't quite know how he performs. I might have a look back on him and see if he performed, because I mean he's 470 odd, and that's a good price if he's going to get the minutes and that.
He only had 4 runs, so a little bit disappointing. He came very close to a try, I think it was. I think it was him from the glimpse that I got of it. But yeah, a little bit disappointing. I was pretty high on him. I had him in my team earlier in the year, but traded him out to make room for other players. But yeah, after that, I'm a bit concerned, but we'll see how the next game goes.
Yeah. All right, we might get to these questions now because we've been running for a while. So we'll finish off with a couple of cheapy questions. So Anthony's talking about a couple other potential wingers that might get spots because we've got no Nofaluma now and we've got no Dom Young now. Did either of you like the look of Lob and Armstrong as potential starters from round 2 and round 1? I think Armstrong put his hand up, really. He's done a really, really good job. He did all he needed to in that trial to put himself in the conversation. I don't know if they'll pick him, but he's definitely a lot closer to the running now, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely.
And Lob from the Tigers, is it?
Yes.
I don't think you can do it with the round 1 bye. I mean, that's really ultra risky without knowing what their starting lineup is. So I think, he may have looked good, but with that round 1 bye, I think it rules him out. He might be a downgrade potentially if he can win the spot, but not for round 1.
Yeah, there weren't too many cheapies. I mean, we were wanting cheapies to stand out in these trials. There were a few, but I don't think any of them are going to start. I think Armstrong is probably one of the best shouts for it. I think off the back of the Raiders Eels game, like Schiller, if he does jag that center spot, then he may be a good option. But again, Sebastian Kris returning, who knows what's going to happen there. I think the positive to take from it was the fact that the backline didn't really perform. So we don't know where Seb Kris is going to end up. So yeah, it's a really tough question. I think next week we're going to get a bit more of an understanding of what cheapie to actually go with. We didn't touch on it, but Iro, we were all hoping. We saw a lot out of Iro in that Sharks Knights game, and I didn't really see anything. It was kind of disappointing to see. I traded him out of my team after this because I'm like, I don't see him getting that spot. And even if he does, we didn't see enough effort out of someone who's trying to break into that team and prove a point. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll go on to the last question now. Out of this whole week, out of all of the trials, given the fact that it is week 1, we shouldn't read too much into trials, but was there something that you saw that made you change your team up? Who have you changed in your team as a result of trials? I'll go with you first, Rob.
Yes, definitely. Coruscant, the goal kicking's big, that was a big tick. There were rumors, but now that we're kind of seeing it, especially with Caesar in the team, who we thought would get the goal kicking, and Bud Sullivan was also in the team who can kick as well. So Appy was straight in and kind of solved a problem for me that I had with the Jaden Brayley news. And then I think it was more, so he was someone I brought in, but I think it was actually more about who I got rid of really after what I saw, more than anything. And, people like Kyle Flanagan and Iro and Strange as well, they just didn't do enough to justify being in there. That I don't think they're going to be there round 1, or in Flanagan's case, he's just not gonna give us points that we need to get money out of him.
Yeah, one thing that I have looked at a couple of times is how high have Amone and Jaden Sullivan ever got next to Ben Hunt? So how high is Kyle Flanagan going to get? If I needed to see something in order to get him in, and I just don't know whether it was enough, especially without the goal kicking. For me, I'm probably going to do something similar if I can move the money around with Coruscant out for Brayley. I've changed Flanagan out for Weeks again, and I put Alex Seyfarth just chilling in a front second row 5, I think, something like that, just to sit there for now if he continues to be at lock. About you, Mr. Charity, how did you change over the weekend?
All right, hear me out. I've got one that's a little bit left field here, right? I like Watson. Okay, now Watson isn't too much of a left field pick, but the reason why I think I'm actually going to lock him into my team is because of that dual hooker position. Because let's say, for example, we get in Brendan Hands, right? He plays 2 games and Brad Arthur goes, nah, no more. Let's bring in Lussick. And there's maybe some changes in pricing. Maybe someone's still running with Jaden Brayley and with Hands. If you get screwed over in that hooker position, like we did last year with a certain Panthers number 9, you're not stuck. You can trade Watson and just put him into that position while you make some more money to then eventually upgrade. I'm going that as almost like an insurance policy. I don't know if I'm going to play him. If he plays like he did in that trial game, then 100% he's worth the play. Scoring like a 51 points off a 370K price. That's money. That's one of the things that I think I'm trading around with. And then dependent on round 0 teams. But Kepi I did throw in after what I saw. And Salmon. I really liked Salmon. I had him in my team, and then people laughed at me because he was probably number 17 for the Bulldogs. But after seeing what he did and what Curran did, I think we could potentially even see him starting at lock. We see a move from NRL coaches for locks to be ball players now in the modern game, and Salmon has those skills. So I put him in there because worst comes to worst, I can downgrade Salmon easily to any of these cheapy CTWs that we see stand out. So those were the 3 that I sort of made changes off the back of these games.
Interesting. There'll be some good value there if TLT pans out the way you're looking for as well. So hopefully it comes good. Yeah. All right, everyone. Any final notes on the weekend before we wrap up, or are we pretty much done? You got any? Yeah.
Tigers for the premiership after that.
Tigers for the premiership. Yeah, it'll be good. I honestly reckon if they do okay, I would love to see them return to their perennial position of 9th. Because I mean, I don't think they're finals. But
do you know what's really funny?
What?
Ready for this? Because of the round 1 bye, they are almost guaranteed to be in 9th after round 1. So they're finding their rightful place in 9th place.
Fantastic. It's getting to that time of night, guys. We're talking about the Tigers in 9th. I think we'll probably sit and wrap it up there. Thank you, Mr. Charity, for coming on and talking about that Lifeline League. Make sure you get involved with that in the Discord. Thank you, Rob, for coming on. Is there anything you want to shout out before we finish up, or are we going to get ready for the Wednesday pod? All right. I'm Scoop from Supercoach Hub. This is Mr. Charity. Thank you for coming on tonight, Mr. Charity and Rob. We'll catch you guys on Wednesday with Monster Mash and Daniel Redmond from the Generate Supercoach, Shane Johns from the NRL Supercoach Therapy Pod. So look out for that as they go through some more team lists and we get closer and closer to our final round 1 of footy. Love you guys.